And the reality is that we are all purpose-driven in some way. And if we think about it from a leadership lens, I think the more in tune we can be as humans into what makes us tick, what brings us joy, what frustrates us, all of those things, the more effective we can be because the more relatable we are.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Leadership Syllabus. I'm your series host and leadership performance coach, John Jaramillo. The Leadership Syllabus podcast provides insights from leaders on the main leadership lesson they learned from their work, life, and experiences and who they are as a person. Each 30-minute mod will capture a bit about who the guest is, their work, and the one lesson they would contribute to the Leadership Syllabus. This collection of mods will offer you a one-series stop of real-world and life lessons to enhance your own self-understanding, awareness, and effectiveness in leadership and life. And today's mod is Purpose-Driven Leadership, and today's contributor is Jenn T. And Jenn is an award-winning author, nationally recognized speaker, and publishing strategist with more than 20 years of experience in marketing, communication, and storytelling. She's the founder of Publish Your Purpose, a certified B Corp hybrid publisher, and the creator of Author Growth, an impact and educational platform designed to support nonfiction and memoir authors through every stage of the author journey. Jenn is the author of 8 books, including Promote Your Purpose, and has guided over 300 authors from first-time writers to experienced thought leaders refining their strategy. And Jenn was one of my first guests on my other podcast, The Book Leads, and has appeared twice on that. The first time she appeared was, I think they both came out in the same month, August 2021.
It's crazy.
August 2021. And I remember those conversations like they were just yesterday. The first appearance, episode 4, she appeared with Stephen Higgins to cover the book I Am Mine. Check that one out. That was a great story of that book and how it came to be. And then she came back in episode 5 to cover the book Fascinate, How to Make Your Brand Impossible to Resist. It's incredible that it was 2021, Jenn. And that, you know, we're in the same region and we know the same people, but our ships have only crossed like in the night and we haven't met in person.
I don't know how that is possible because our professional network is so overlapped.
So yeah, I got to make a note to coordinate something with you to just finally catch up in person.
I agree.
But thank you for being here. Thank you for coming back.
I appreciate it. I always love these conversations. They're always so deep and insightful.
Absolutely. Everything I gain and learn from you guys, it's just, it's a free masterclass. So I appreciate it so much. Yeah. So for you, first off, how would you describe yourself? Who are you as a person?
Who am I as a person? Well, I have a lot of varying interests, but from as a person, we were kind of saying this, like I always have a lot of irons in the fire. I always have a lot of things going on. And I was working on something personally the other day, and my hairstylist was like, "You really don't know how to half-ass anything, do you?" And I was like, "I do not. It's a full-ass endeavor, no matter what it is that I'm up to." But I feel like my purpose in so many ways is to just help other people feel seen, whether it's personal or professional. So, yeah.
Where does that come from in you in terms of being driven to be so busy? Were you always like that, like high achiever? Was that something that picked up steam in your education and life? Was it modeled for you? Where does that come from?
Oh, it's such a good question. I think it's a combination of a number of things, but I think growing up, being sedentary just wasn't an option. Whether that was my default programming or not, I think is what's up for debate. Because what I've been focusing on over the last number of years is actually trying to deconstruct basically how I operate. Because it's not that I'm always busy. I always have a lot of things going on, but I do still have a lot of time for rest and things that bring me joy. And I'm not working 50, 60, 70-hour weeks. That is absolutely just not how I'm wired. But I still do have a lot of things going on. So I think even, like if I'm not actively doing something in my business, I am, I just started a side project of making tables out of maple. Do I know what I'm doing? Absolutely not.
Of course you did. Why wouldn't it be? Like, of course you did.
Right? Like, that's my point.
Yeah. That's incredible. Just because I see you post so often about obviously the authors, the clients you have,
Mhm.
the books that you're putting out. It's just, it's incredible to see. And I know that you're not one of those people that's go, 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 because I remember you saying, maybe it was in this our past series conversations or somewhere like Connects Exchange where we were on virtually, but I remember you hearing, or I remember you talking about how many books you read. And I
Mhm.
was blown away. I was like, how does she have the fucking time to read like that many books if she's doing all this stuff? But you know how the magic is made in terms of what you can handle, how you need to step back. Everybody kind of has their formula that they figure out.
Mhm.
For you, what do you want to share about your work? Obviously, I read your bio, but what do you want to kind of throw in there about how you work with your clients or any kind of iterations of how your business has changed, anything at all?
Yeah, I would say what I find rewarding about the work that I do is that we work with authors that are purpose driven, they're mission driven, they're impact driven. There's something that's driving them to do something with their own work that is going to benefit and be of value to someone else. And so what's really awesome about that is that at the end of the day, we publish books. Like that's so that is the mark of success is that you said, Jen, I need you and your team to help me publish a book, and you're physically holding one at the end of the process. But it is way deeper than that because anyone can write a book, anyone can publish a book. Like I do believe that there's an accessibility component to publishing that didn't exist in the past. And just because you can do it doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing it with intentionality, you're doing it strategically. And so that's really what we spend so much time with. And so what's great for me is that I get to like really know the authors that we work with. I get to create like really deep relationships and I get to know all about their business. And so for someone who I feel like just I feel like there's never enough things that I can learn in this world. Like there's always something that I am interested in. It doesn't even matter what it is. I'll talk to anybody. I'll talk to strangers about anything. And so to be able to be working with authors with different personalities, different goals, different visions, different purposes, and still have the same kind of process that kind of connects everything, it
Hmm.
feels like it is the perfect business for just how my personality operates. So, it brings me purpose to help other people discover theirs.
That's incredible. So, I mean, I don't know if I'm assuming it plays into this next question, but what has your work taught you aside from the leadership aspect that we'll get to? What has your work taught you? How has it changed who you are, your business and everything you've worked on?
I think the big thing, and I feel like this almost feels like it should be like on a t-shirt or a quote, um, is like we never really know what other people are going through. And I think there is something so deep and profound about that because even looking at social media, it's like we operate through life through this like false lens of what reality really looks like. And if we look at social media, it's like the highlights reel, or sometimes there's people that, can, keep the low lights there and then they're like emotionally draining everybody and people don't want to be like involved in that. So like there's no winning, I guess is the point. And
Yeah.
so I feel like having empathy for everyone, even if you do not have a values alignment with whoever that might be, because we really just have no idea what's going on in people's lives. And I think working with authors that are writing books about leadership or writing a business book or writing their memoir, it is astonishing the lived experiences that people have that, when we like, I'm talking about like my current iteration of my work, but I had like two other iterations before this. And it's like, we don't often get to see that side of people to like really see like the depth of somebody because we're so focused on kind of the surface level, I feel like, as a society. So I think that's what it really provides for is because you can't get around not going deep when it comes to working on a book.
So when you talk about previous iterations, what do you mean?
Like if I look at the work that I was doing before this, I was a consultant, working, in marketing and communications. And then before that, I had a graphic design, web design agency. And both of those things were like kind of like not quite 10-year periods, but kind of close. Like they were all kind of overlapping. And so, but I don't talk about those other things, but they're very much intertwined in terms of my skill sets and just
Yeah.
my knowledge base today, even though it's not something I talk about. And there's like, that's what I find interesting because I might meet somebody and they're doing this really incredible leadership work, but then you go back in their past and you're like, oh my God, like you were doing this humanitarian aid or, like it's astonishing and amazing the stories that people have that they don't even think to talk about.
Amen. I mean, that's what happened with my other podcast was I wanted to put something out there, 4 books, reach into my network, expand my network, all that stuff. If you look at the episodes percentage wise, it was like, 40% the author talking about their other questions and then 60% the book, or maybe even a little more for the book. Now it's kind of like after hearing so many stories, and you'll have authors where maybe I met them on LinkedIn or connected through other connections and referrals and recommendations, but you kind of see what you said, like the outward face, the branding in some cases, LinkedIn. So I'd have a conversation with them on a book that they wanted to share, and you just realize how much is there. You see all the branding, all the stories that they tell online. Not that they're being false or anything, but it's really a conversation that gets you to that depth of, okay, how was this person made? What did they go through in their life to get to this point of this beautiful package that they're completely honest about? It's not that it's perfect, but this package where they're being so effective today. So now there's like this creep in terms of the length of the person's story versus the book that's covered. Now the book is very much important, very much a part of the message, but it's a lower or lesser amount of time because we just dive into who the person is, because all of that stuff online, it's there, but it's that rich story behind it that just, even I just keep learning that with each person. It's like, oh my God, I never knew that about you. Okay, that's why that makes sense. So all these little questions, I'm always looking for people's origin stories. So I appreciate everything that you shared.
I think an origin story is so good.
Yeah,
So good.
absolutely.
And, and a
Absolutely.
lot of times people just don't have the opportunity to like actually think
Yeah.
about their origin story because it's not relevant necessarily to
Mm,
their day-to-day life. So it's not like a lack of wanting to, perhaps. It's just the invitation hasn't been extended.
exactly. That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed that in this, I've noticed it in coaching that I've done where people are just like, I've never been asked that before.
Mm-hmm.
And they can answer it in most cases because they know, but they've just never been invited. It's never been extended to them to share. Maybe they didn't know or have the wherewithal to share. So I love that we can both dig for those stories and get those golden nuggets of wisdom that people can pull from their life and experiences that maybe they took for granted or didn't even know were there.
Yeah.
Jen, for you, what's the biggest lesson now jumping into leadership?
Mm-hmm.
What's the biggest lesson through your work, your experience, your life that led you to pick purpose-driven leadership as the mod title for this episode? What was it that stands out? What were the lessons? How did that come to be that you wanted to choose this mod title?
I think sometimes when people think about purpose, they think it has to be this big, grandiose, outward facing, serving everybody else, ignoring themselves, this huge effort. And the reality is that we are all purpose driven in some way. And if we think about it from a leadership lens, I think the more in tune we can be as humans into what makes us tick, what brings us joy, what frustrates us, all of those things, the more effective we can be because the more relatable we are, right? Like I think that sometimes from a leadership standpoint, people are, there's an expectation of you in a leadership role that you have to look a certain way, act a certain way, behave a certain way, have certain interest. And really that just makes everybody like this homogenous mass. And it's like, that's
Mhm.
not, leaders aren't homogenous. There's so much nuance in there. And so I think people struggle with knowing what their purpose is. And I think if we can figure out what that is, it creates a North Star. And when we have that North Star, suddenly everything else becomes more easy. So, and I think that it becomes more easy in leadership capacities too, in family capacities, as a parent, as a sibling, as anything. And so for me, I think the more we can add purpose into our leadership qualities and think about it from that lens, the more effective leaders can be broadly.
Were there any, you don't have to go into specifics or names or anything like that, but were there any moments in your life and career that kind of drove home this idea of purpose? Like really, it's one of those things, like I said before, these kind of things are there, but there's a time that you reach or something that happens. You're like, oh, okay, this is what it's about. In this case, purpose. Is there something that stands out where it kind of opened up your eyes really to what that means?
Yeah, it was. And I actually write about this in my memoir, House on Fire. And what's interesting is that I'll be 45. That memoir kind of was from age 6 to 36. So it was a very specific kind of window of time. And it was probably 10 years ago now, maybe a little bit more, where I was going through some serious things, which are all written about, a lot of traumatic things as an adult. And I remember just sitting there thinking, I can't be the only one. My family can't be the only one experiencing this specific thing. And so I started kind of looking to see where I could find support groups, I ended up finding Facebook groups where people were struggling with the same thing that affects like a really small percentage of people. And then I was thinking, okay, well, here's the thing. I will talk to anybody. I am outgoing. I don't have an agenda necessarily. Why would I not use my ability to communicate to benefit the larger group of people who are all struggling with the exact same thing? And so it was almost like I remember vividly doing a puzzle in my living room, and it was like a boat anchor or oars. And like I can remember it so clearly because I remember just putting the pieces together thinking like there's got to be a solution. There's got to be a way that I can use my voice to help other people use their voices or people who don't have a voice. And it was that kind of recognition. So this would have been in 2015, 2016, is when I started. It was like the inklings of my publishing company now, because I realized that is the purpose that I need to live into, because I've gone through this really, really, really shitty experience. And I didn't want other people to have that same experience. And I just realized that, like, for whatever reason, I'm like, well, I'm suited to kind of step into this role. Nobody asked me to, but I felt like, okay, I can be a voice on behalf of this community, and just kind of ran with it. But I think that happens with a lot of people. It's like going through something really bad to then kind of find like, oh, there's something different. There's a different way. There's a resource I was missing. I think that's like a lot of people's story.
I'm all about cliches, but it's like that's the story of like the phoenix, the imagery of the phoenix rising from the ashes.
Yep.
And when you're younger, you're like, what the hell does that mean? Like, come on, really? You know, you have to go through challenges or obstacles. You can come out better the other side. Well, whatever phrasing you use. But I have a deep appreciation for people who can see the value in their trauma and want to be like, you know, I'm not the only one. I know other people are doing this. If I have the means, the resources, the capability, the value that I can provide to help other people get their story out there or share or even heal through what I put together. That's incredible. So was that the main driver for you launching your publishing company?
Yeah. It was that. That was the primary focus. And at the time, I just had a lot of people in my kind of community and network who were asking me, like, how did you know how to publish? How did you know how to write it? So I had a lot of just like miscellaneous questions from a lot of different places. And so it was kind of that. And then it was this like, oh, wow. It almost felt like I had to do it less. Like it felt like an invitation that like I had to proceed with, versus, you know, like sometimes you have like, oh, you should do this or you should do this. And you're like, it's not my thing. This felt so aligned. And then once I realized that, I'm like, well, I have to look for other people who were trying to create that transformation for other people. And which is why it's always been focused on purpose. And purpose can be defined in a lot of different ways. And I'm not here to police people of what their purpose is. I'm just here to support it and elevate it in whatever way that looks.
So if somebody's thinking about purpose, if they're listening to this, watching this, maybe they haven't considered it. Maybe, you know, because we're so reactive, we go through the grind, we go through the motions, we go through the script of life, go to our work, go to our job, go to our business, kind of do what we need to survive or whatever society puts out there. And they really haven't thought about their purpose. What steps would you have them consider? Are some calls to action that you would put out there, maybe 2 or 3 steps for them to consider to really start thinking about this? And like you said, it's not like you have to think about it. It's not like this is what it is, but it is. I always say, listen, anything I write, anything I share, put out there, it's not prescriptive. I'm not telling you have to do this, but I definitely want you to consider this, that there are options out there. Just consider. So for you, what are some calls to action that you would put out there when it comes to purpose-driven leadership?
I think it's starting with really trying to know yourself. And I know that that is a way easier task or way easier said than done. And so I think if we're looking in the lens of what brings us joy, what lights us up, where are we feeling aligned? When are we doing something that just feels frictionless or that we would be paid to do? We would do it whether we got paid or not. So if you can
Mm,
just kind of start with just trying to free write it, throw it into a voice memo, do like walk out in the woods and talk to yourself out loud, whatever method works for you. But just really try to identify what are those things that actually bring you joy versus because I think we always know all the things that upset us, but I think we can rarely answer the question with ease of the things that actually light us up. And so if we can start with that, then we can go and throw some Simon Sinek into the mix and say, okay, for me, I love nothing more than brainstorming with people. It doesn't even matter if it has anything to do with what I'm doing for business. I
same,
could be talking to
same.
somebody at the post office
Yeah.
and, because I get in conversations everywhere and like just start chatting. Actually, I was in the line at a bakery and some woman behind me, like somehow we got into this whole conversation about bread making as if either of us know what's going on. But the line was long. And so now I'm just chatting away with this woman. And it's like, I love doing that. So if I know that that's what I love doing, how do I position my life and my work around creating environments where I can do that? But then you can go deeper and say, well, why do I love doing that? Like, what is it about that I love? And then whatever that next answer is, Simon Sinek, you ask why again, and just keep going deeper and deeper.
Hmm.
Then you might be able to find patterns and commonalities that can then help you say, okay, from a leadership lens, I need to be a really visible leader because I need to be the leader that people come to when they have a problem. Like that's the kind of leader I would want to be. But there's going to be somebody else who does not want to invite that at all. And so if you know what that is, what the thing is that you want to attract, then you can start to communicate and message out what that thing is that you're looking for. And you can find the right opportunities that kind of fit what it is that kind of, makes you tick. And it sounds like a little bit harder, I think, to get at than I think it really is. I think it's just really just starting to get some self-awareness into the mix and like really just start to think about, what makes us happy.
Yeah. So is that an exercise that you carry out with your clients? I don't know if this is giving away industry secrets or IP or anything like that, but because somebody may come to you and say, hey, I have something that I think we can work on together that I can put out there, take a look at this. We all may believe that we've dug deep enough to find what our purpose is or understand our purpose. And some people may think, I'm an accountant that can work 80 hours. That's my purpose. And then you sit them down and you go through that why to get deeper. So is this a type of exercise you do with your clients to make sure that they get to that right place for them for when they begin writing or fixing up their manuscript, whatever it may be?
Yeah, absolutely. I've written 8 books, but 2 of them, so Publish Your Purpose and Promote Your Purpose, both of them, the first chapter is the purpose. Like we have to start with the purpose because what happens is that when we know what the purpose is, we can then identify what the impact is that we want. And then we can identify appropriate goals around how we get there. And I think that's where a lot of times, like, so if I'm working with authors and the goal is to publish their thought leadership, that is a leadership book, for example, and they want to get on more stages and be on more platforms and get in charge more for speaking, there has to be a plan for how we're going to get there. But if we don't know what the purpose is, we don't know what the impact is that we're going for, it's a lot harder to figure out which things align appropriately to kind of get to that end result.
I love hearing you talk about like just writing and the publishing and just
Mhm.
everything that goes into that. Somebody just really refining their targeting to figure out what it is they want to put out there, how others might utilize it. So I appreciate everything you've shared, Jen.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
So just in wrapping up, is there anything you want to share? Anything you want to put out there that maybe I didn't ask? Anything at all? The floor is yours.
I think I would say, for someone who's just trying to figure this out, is to just start. Try not to overcomplicate it, which is definitely one of my many, many traits is to overcomplicate things unnecessarily. So I do a great job at helping other people not complicate
And
it.
when
But
you go for that walk in the woods that Jen talked about, bring back some maple
yes,
so she can
please
make
do.
a
Yeah.
table.
Yeah, yeah. That'll be a side conversation, but yes, please do. I would enjoy some more maple. But yeah, like just do it. Just start, because I think it's easy to listen to a conversation like this and think, "Oh wow, that's a really cool idea. I would love to do that." Like, instead of saying I would love to do that, like, just grab a pen and just start writing. Just start writing it down. Don't worry about like what it looks like or nobody else is seeing it, but just to start to kind of like open up I think of like a faucet. Like, because once you start opening the faucet, even if it's just dripping at first, the more it drips, the more momentum that eventually comes. And then eventually it's just kind of spewing out of you until it's almost like your purpose is just so obvious and front and center. And then all of your decision making can be so much easier, because you can say, does this align with my purpose? And if it does, great, go for it. But if it doesn't, you can say, you know what, I'm going to say no to this opportunity and wait for a more aligned one to come next.
Yeah, and aside from, I agree with Jen that you can start by yourself. You can start with a notepad or a pen or a pencil, whatever fashion, to start collecting your ideas, and don't forget to look for people that you can bounce ideas off of, people that you can brainstorm with, because I find from personal, professional, business experience, all of it, talking to people, you can have somebody that wants something for themselves or has the agency to say, I think I want this for myself, and then be in the wrong environment where everybody just kind of shuts it down. So I think it's important, and obviously you know this, Jen, to get yourself around people that they don't need to agree with you completely. They don't need to have your same idea, but that they can open up their mind to explore ideas and brainstorm. Like you said so yourself. I'm paraphrasing, but I don't care like who I'm around, but I can brainstorm with anybody. I'll jump into anything and get them thinking in certain ways, or ask them questions to get them thinking in a certain direction. So always consider like who you're around and who you can approach and share with, just because I think obviously if we share with others and we're inspired by them and encouraged by them, that's great. But sometimes people shut themselves down because they're around the wrong people.
I see that happen all the time. I see that happen with authors all the time, where their spouse isn't supportive, or they have a child that's not supportive, or there's someone who has a significant level of influence over them. And it makes the process so much harder than it really needs to be, versus just intentionally seeking out people who are going to be like, yes, go get that dream of writing a book. There's no reason that you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think surrounding yourself around the right people is important. And it takes time, because it's certainly not easy to make new friends as adults.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a completely different series of podcasts. And it's probably somebody's probably already doing it, but that's definitely that definitely is the case. But listen, you and I weren't friends before meeting virtually, but we are driven by values. We enjoy writing. Obviously, that's your bread and butter. We're into brainstorming with people. We like talking to different people, learning about different people. So it's like you have to be curious enough to find the people that you guys can benefit for each other. There's that symbiotic support and empowerment. So, Jen, thank you so much for this conversation, for coming back again, for trusting me again.
I always appreciate it. Like I said, these are always really good conversations.
I love it. If there's anything I might have missed, let me know. There's less time in this series than the other one. But if there's anything I might have missed that you think I should have asked Jen or brought up, please let me know. I'll reach out to her, see what kind of wisdom, guidance, insight, whatever it may be I can get back from her. In the meantime, thank you for watching, listening, and subscribing, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.